So if you've been on the channel before, I've discussed my clinical work as a therapist and working toward full-time content creation, but I think sometimes the bulk of what quote-unquote YouTubers do on a day-to-day basis is a little bit shrouded in mystery, right? Recording and editing videos are a part of the job, but not even close to the full bulk of the myriad of things that are needed to actually make this entire thing run. Sifting through hundreds of junk emails, answering not scam emails, negotiating with brands, brainstorming videos to make, actually scheduling the content, which I absolutely hate. It's just not how my brain works. Juggling what videos to make over others, outlining scripts and drafting outlines, planning content 3-4 weeks in advance to stay ahead of the curve, which again, I hate planning and scheduling things, but it has to be done. And when Asus reached out to me to send me the A14, part of me was skeptical of how the Zenbook A14 could fill the gap for me when typically I use my M4 MacBook Pro for YouTube and video creation. But what I found was an amazing combination of lightweight build, intelligent and capable processing systems, and ultimately a laptop that completely lifted the weight for me in terms of portability, capability, and at a price point that I know is going to work for a lot of you guys that click on these videos. The Asus Zenbook A14 has had me cheating on my M4 MacBook Pro in a lot of different ways that I genuinely was not expecting. So between normal day work, travel, wedding planning, Marie and I are getting married in August, so there's been a ton of that as well. And also all the miscellaneous things that are needed on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis for content creation and making this YouTube thing work. So if you guys are new here, my name is Dave, and this is where tech meets lifestyle. All right, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is how freaking light this thing is, and how for me personally, that's really made a huge difference in terms of day-to-day usability, and how that probably will make a really big difference for you guys too. Oh, got a 12:34 p.m. right now. And it's been a long day. I've been traveling for about, I think, 21 hours, but that's really where the A14 shines because of how lightweight it is. And I'm working on this right here, thumbnail for the Pixel 9a video, which should be coming out tomorrow. But having a laptop that is this lightweight that I can put in my book bag and does not weigh a ton like a brick. And if any of you have ever picked up a MacBook Pro, you know those things are hefty. This is the exact opposite of that. Being able to work on thumbnails, answer emails, and not feel like I'm lugging around a heavy, cumbersome rectangle with me all day for those 21 hours is a huge plus. And I think that's one of those things, especially if you're someone that travels a lot, this package being so lightweight but also capable at the same time is a great combo, especially too, the A14 has a bunch of additional ports that say like your MacBook Air does not. You have your built-in HDMI port, you have 2 USB-C ports, you have your 3.5mm headphone jack, and then over here you have your USB-A slot. And what that means is that I don't have to carry any additional peripherals to get working with this thing. I don't have to carry any extra dongles. This has all of the ports that I would feasibly need for my daily workflow on a day-to-day basis. It's that time of year again where it is like really warm outside, it's nice. Anytime that I can be outside, it is a huge plus. And what's great here is that the Asus Zenbook A14 has a max brightness of 600 nits. And so what that means in layman's terms is that I can take this outside, go to a park, work and do all of my creativity, productivity things, absorb some sun, and I have no problem seeing anything that's on my screen. And on top of this being such a freakishly light laptop, that is a huge win for me, and it's probably going to be a really big win for you guys too. All right, so in terms of muscle that the A14 is packing, you have up to 1 terabyte of PCIe 4.0 SSD storage, 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, and an NPU or neural processing unit capable of 45 trillion operations per second. And on this channel, you guys know I do not like to throw nerdy jargon at you guys. So in layman's terms, what that means is that the A14 is built from the ground up with AI capabilities in mind. And in my experience, and I imagine for a lot of you guys watching this thing has been immensely capable and practically useful and helpful for a ton of things that I've needed on a day-to-day basis, right? Not only for like my normal day-to-day living and like stuff for say the wedding, but also right talking with you guys about the business side of YouTube. For example, one of the features that has been immensely helpful and basically has made the A14 kind of like my secretary is their recall function, which basically every few seconds takes snapshots of the different pages that you're on, the tabs or apps that you're opening, and basically it collects all of that data and information. The reason that that's really helpful for someone like me, for example, who's always sifting through tons of pretty pointless emails and doesn't do a great job of actually organizing what's happening in those emails myself. And as I can pull up the recall function, type in what I remember from that email, and boom, it'll instantly take me to a snapshot of that email. So I can then pull the information for myself from that email that I personally need, that I forgot to do the first time around. I can also see this being super helpful too for people that are like, I'm not in graduate school anymore myself, but when I was in graduate school, having this recall function would have been a game changer for me for every single class, basically. All of the different like documents and books that we were reading and all the different, yeah, you get it. Another thing that's been really helpful, I mentioned earlier to you guys, script writing and like script outlines for the YouTube videos that I'm making. I don't like to do like a word for word script. It's just not really my style. I don't want the words coming out of my mouth to feel robotic to you guys because I'm reading it off of a prompter or a script. Copilot is super handy because I can basically just like regurgitate my thoughts at the AI and tell it to kind of like make it in a nice bullet point format for me. And that way, when I'm actually sitting down to record a video, I can just glance at the bullet point format that's nicely, neatly done for me already. And I already have all of like the thoughts up here. So when I look at the bullet point, it just lets me know what the next talking point is, and then I can just talk to you guys naturally, organically, and not have to read from a prompt. And so Copilot in that way has been really helpful also, and in my experience more helpful again than something like Apple Intelligence, even though I've used the MacBook largely a ton over these last couple of years. And then there's also Click to Do, where the AI analyzes text and images that are on your screen, and then you can choose the text or images that you want to take action on. So say for example, you're making a thumbnail, right? You come across an image that you'd like to use. You can use the Click to Do software in order to select the image, send it over to Photos, and then erase parts of the image or remove the background as you see fit, so you can place it into that thumbnail. There are a lot of really cool applications with Click to Do and the AI here that I get more usage out of than any kind of AI implementation that's built into my MacBook right now. All right, so there are a couple of things that you guys are probably wondering about, right? In terms of, you know, everything I've named so far are like pretty positive things, and that's because there's a lot of positive to talk about with the Zenbook A14. And for full transparency with you guys, like I am with everything else here on the channel, this video is sponsored by Asus. They sent me the Zenbook A14. I'm here in Taiwan because of them, going to be visiting their HQ. But what I can say is that they've been great during this entire process. And of course, there are things that they want me to highlight, like the key features that the Zenbook A14 have, and the reasons they think this is a great consumer product. And honestly, in my time using this over the last month and some change, they've been spot on with all of the things they've wanted me to highlight to you guys. Things work incredibly well. But of course, like with anything else, this is not a perfect device. And in my time with the Zenbook A14, there are really only two things that stand out that keep it from being like perfect, quote unquote, but I think there's also some context surrounding this, right? So one of those things being that this runs on Windows ARM architecture, and in layman's terms, what that means for those of you guys who have no idea, basically the architecture that the Zenbook runs on, still newer, and so there are going to be some compatibility issues depending on different software and apps that you're running. I mean, things have come a really long way though. And for example, right, Photoshop, Lightroom, and I've used the Zenbook A14 for editing thumbnails, putting together pictures for Maria and I's wedding, putting together templates for like our wedding invitations. And so personally, I haven't run into any situations where I'm looking to use an app and the Zenbook A14 just wasn't compatible. But that's something that I do have to let you guys know, that depending on what you're looking to use it on, that might be something that is still in the works developmentally. And I want to clarify, this is not an Asus thing, it's a Windows thing, but it is running ARM architecture. And so even though that's come a really long way in terms of compatibility with a lot of different software, still something that, depending on who you are, might be a notch against the Zenbook. But again, I haven't had any of those problems. And the second thing being that this is not a super heavy hitting laptop. And so what I mean by that is that, like, for example, my M4 MacBook Pro I use for all of the video editing here done on the channel, like, and the M4 MacBook Pro just like ease through that with ease. What I can say is that I am able to do some lighter editing on the Zenbook A14. It's not going to be as smooth or export things as quickly as my M4 MacBook Pro that cost me $3,600. But again, you're spending $1,000 or with some sales about $800 on the Zenbook A14, and it's still capable in a ton of different ways. But if there were going to be a couple of things that keep the A14 from being perfect, those would really be the two things. And again, for me, picture editing is something that I use this for often with my thumbnails on the channel. It handles all of those things excellently. And again, in a portable form factor with a great screen, it works great. Alright, so I'm back from Taiwan, absolutely amazing trip in every single way, and this honestly was a really big part of that experience, uploading pictures and videos and also a reel to my Instagram page while I was out, and also handling my miscellaneous emails with brands, and also just like my scheduling things, and being able to do so on a very light, very portable laptop that is not heavy and bulky like my MacBook Pro was really, really nice. And really that's been my entire experience with the Zenbook A14 as well. It's light, it's portable, and it's capable, and it's intelligent in a lot of real world ways that are applicable practically basically every single day. And I think really the Zenbook A14 is kind of the laptop for most people, right? It's not going to be able to do your heavy end gaming. It's not going to be able to do like super heavy video editing, but most people don't need that. And most people don't need to spend the extra several $100s or thousands of dollars to get something like that because it's just overkill. But this does everything most people need on a day-to-day basis really well. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. And I do know that there are going to be sales coming out soon for the Zenbook A14 where you can get it for I believe around $800, which is an even more amazing value proposition for this thing. So be sure to keep tabs on the description and the comment section because I'll be sure to populate those with the most recent available sales for the Zenbook A14 to benefit you guys the most. But thank you guys so much again for stopping by and hanging out. I wish you a fantastic remainder of your day, afternoon, or night, depending on the time it is you are watching this. And as always, peace, love, adios, bye guys, and have a great day.